Can you hear me okay? I can't hear you.
Yeah. Good morning,
Okay.
everybody. This is Deborah Ivanoff. I'm here with Jackie Pasciak, instructor for Being the Solution. And this is our weekly chat about the Being the Solution tools. I don't know if you remember last week, we spoke a little bit about what to do when you don't know what you want, but you're really clear about what you don't want. So if you have not seen that, make sure you take a look at that on the replay page. And this morning, what we're talking about is building the desire, being brave, being bold, and being brave enough to go ahead and embrace what it is you really want. For those of you who've been following some of my blog information or my newsletter, you know I've been talking about overcoming the risk of disappointment, and this definitely taps into that. And thank you so much for joining me this morning, Jackie, because I know that the Being the Solution program, the book and the curriculum that I know that you teach, really has something to say about overcoming all of our fears, all of our doubts, getting over that big hump. What do you notice? What do you notice in your own life? Do you get stopped or slowed down? Do you notice it in the students when they first get in? Do people get stopped and slowed down when they're faced with making a big change?
Well, yeah, I think that if you were to ask a lot of people, um, are you really living the life that you want? Are you really making the changes that you want? And there's always kind of well, I could do better, or not as much as I would like, and that kind of thing. So definitely enthusiasm is something that I liken it to sort of a fire that needs feeding. It needs, you have to keep throwing wood on it. It's not a one-shot deal.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because no, lately, and it's not like, I mean, always, but lately, just in the last couple of weeks, I've noticed it a lot in several people that I know around me, in a number of clients that they've said, I've tried so many times before, why should I bother trying this time? There's just going to be disappointment on the other side, or it's just not going to turn out the way I want, or I'm going to invest all of this time and energy. That was something I heard last week. I'm going to invest all of this time and energy for what? And so there's that, like, setting things up for discouragement, really, and what I find is this was true of me too. When I was in that space in the past, if someone were to say, oh, cheer up, come on, I wouldn't do anything. I'd probably go into resistance, right? And so, of course, that's not what I said to those around me who I was hearing this from. I was actually hearing this from my daughter last week too. And it's very real, the fear of what hasn't worked in the past. But I know, you're talking about this enthusiasm, right? And it's like a fire, isn't it? Which is totally different than that, whatever that fear of discouragement or fear of investing with no return is, kind of like the opposite of the fire, right? It's like, it's like ice, like slows everything down, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just kind of like sometimes you think if your personality isn't sort of the rah rah go getter type, or you don't think it is, or you don't, um, then you kind of go, well, if I'm not super positive all day long, every day, then this is never going to get done. Um, but the way I look at it is, a long time ago, somebody sent me somebody had me read a book, and this person was, oh, just be positive, and the book was called Filling Your Glass. Oh, I don't know, I don't think
Oh,
that's what it was, but it was about, instead of saying is the glass half empty, is it half full, it's about what fills your glass every day.
oh, I like
Look
that.
at what fills. Yeah, so it's not something that, oh, and it was kind of funny because the person who gave it to me didn't read it, obviously.
Oh,
Never read the
oh,
book.
wait. How did you know that? How did you know that they didn't read it?
Because then I said something that was, kind of neutral, or kind of, this is the reality that I'm in right now. Oh, you didn't even read the book. And I said, that's not what the book was about. It was about what fills your glass. And if things are not going super great, if things are going kind of neutral, how can you move to a slightly better place? But you don't have to just be rah, rah, rah all the time.
I love that. I love that. And I love that because when I work with clients, I like to uncover what the need is underneath. I think there's entirely too much. Um, there's entirely too many people saying that someone else should be all rah, rah, rah. As you put it, I think, and we can't really be that way until we fill our own glass. I like that, Jackie. I really like that.
Yeah, and some of us, it's just not part of the personality to be super, I don't know, super extroverted, super talkative, super sunshine all the time.
So that brings up a really
But
good point. That brings up a really good point because I know in Being the Solution, we talk about creating a burning desire. And what I'm hearing you say is that doesn't mean burning desire, neon signs, jumping up and down everywhere. That's not what it means. It looks different on different people, right?
mhm,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's just one of those things that I find really needs to be fueled. And you kind of have to just look at it over the long term and say, okay, what's gonna work today? Because the wind's different when you're building a fire. Every day's a little bit different. You've got moisture, you've got all of these things. So that doesn't
Good
mean
point.
that if one thing works, maybe just taking a day off and taking a walk works the next day. And then obviously you can't do that every day because then it won't get done. So,
Right, right.
it's or so for some people they really respond to the vision boards, and I'm not a visual person. So that doesn't really do much for me. Just vision boards kind of frustrate me because I really don't like putting them together.
Well, that's a really good point. That's a really good point, especially about vision boards. So I know one of the reasons Daryl talks so much about creating that burning desire is because he says that the purpose of creating the burning desire is to get over the resistance, right? Is to actually get over what we were talking about before. If I'm afraid that I'm going to be discouraged, if I'm afraid of investing, if I'm afraid that it's not going to work out, I'm not going to get anywhere. But if I have that burning desire, that's going to carry me through the whole process. Even when the resistance happens, when the fears, the doubts, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back happens. But like you said, burning desire doesn't look the same for everybody. And so it's more of an individual process. And like you said, like someone may get really excited about a vision board. That may be something that helps fuel their burning desire, whether you can see it on the outside or not, right? But another person, it's just annoying. So, um, I got to tell you, this is okay. So I'm going to take you back years ago to the stairwell of my house. Right, I had a 3-story house at the time, and it's when I first met Daryl. He came to speak at a little Unity church we were in, and I kept him up till like 2 in the morning, asking him questions, just grilling him. He stayed at my house because I had a large house, and my whole life was just turned upside down, a real mess. You know the story. And I desperately wanted out, right? Which is, I definitely had the food for a burning desire, but I was pretty desperate at the time, which, as we both know now, isn't necessarily the best place to create miracles from, right? But if you can tap
Right.
that I think that's what Daryl was trying to help me do, was to make that flip from desperation to desire. And I had listened to him, and he was getting ready to go. We were standing in the stairwell of my house. And I just have this very real memory of he was walking down the stairs and I was behind him, and I said, there has to be a magic bullet. There has to, what is the one thing? Please don't leave without me knowing the one thing. And he said, you have to have a big enough why. And I said, what does that mean? Just I had no context for any of this. I was really my first introduction to it. I was so fortunate to have this introduction by having him in person, right? And he said, you have to have a burning desire. And I always remember that. That was like, out of everything he was teaching, what he was telling me at the time, which wasn't the teaching that actually made the most difference for me. The teaching that made the most difference for me was the change process, and understanding that part of the change process is sometimes things don't look like they're going right. They look like they're going wrong, but that's still positive evidence of the change process. But at the time, I just, I was scratching my head and saying, what does that look like? What does that look like? And so I'm glad we're having this conversation, because Daryl could have told me what it looked like for him, In fact, later when we had other conversations about it, he did. But what you're saying, and I think I agree, Jackie, it looks different for different people. The burning desire looks different for different people. So how does it look for you? When you really get connected to your why, how does it look for you, Jackie? Just curious.
Well, for me, I have done things like written a few, written a page or a few paragraphs about something to create that vision. And for me, it's kind of, instead of having a visual about it, it's more of a feeling that I have. So, there might be some sort of visual elements, there might be a picture, but for the most part, I respond more to feelings. So it could
Mhm.
be, even just the feeling of wind or feeling of being in the way I feel when I'm in Europe. I love being in Europe.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I can find. I find can motivate me. But if I just look at a picture up on the wall, it doesn't do much for me unless I can really relate to that picture and say, oh yes, I remember what it's like to be there, or I can imagine what it's like to be there. So I think it's just going to be different for people who are good writers. They can just write pages and pages about their vision.
Right.
Good for them. I'm not a super long writer. I can write some things, but and then some people just love doing vision boards, and that's what they respond to. So it's just a matter of finding what fuels you.
Yeah. As you're speaking, I'm thinking of a couple of clients that come to mind that I know have taken the Being the Solution. One who loves to put himself in fine restaurants, beautiful places, nice cars, and take those pictures and put them up on Facebook and build that excitement with his tribe. You know what I'm saying? Like for him, it's like going and taking everybody with him or getting everybody stirred up with him, and that creates that enthusiasm you were talking about. And then I'm thinking about another person who I know took the class and had these amazing results by speaking almost like a vision board, almost like a verbal power pause, speaking it out loud to someone. And while it got him excited to say it out loud to himself, it really got him excited to speak it to another person. And that's something I find in the class, don't you?
Hmm.
Is that when people, which I know you've talked in the past about how the class is very live, interactive. Everybody, we hear from everybody in the classes. And the purpose behind that, what this is one of the purposes, is that when you speak your vision, your truth, your evidence into a group of trusted people, it grows that burning enthusiasm, doesn't it? Do you see that? Do you see that in the class?
Yeah, it does. It is pretty infectious because you're happy for other people's progress. You're happy to witness that it actually works. And if you're having not such a great day, you can go, okay, this is part of the process. So it kind of helps you understand wherever you are, it's part of the process.
Yeah. I think, oddly enough, we human beings do really like that feeling of being around the campfire and sharing stories, sharing proof, being with one another. I really do notice that too, that can be, it's not for everyone. Like, I have also noticed that there are some people that like to wear things pretty close to the vest, right? And there's space for that too. But there does seem to be something that has to do with other pieces of the teachings in the class, like clarity, um, uh, definitely speaking things out, accountability, being consistent, taking care of what you need to take care of, being really clear about what you want and what you're letting go of. All of those pieces you can't really separate any of the pieces from the other. They all sort of flow together and back with one another. And so when we talk about that enthusiasm, I can see how there's so many things in the curriculum and in the teaching that really complement one to the other. Like if you're not really clear about what you want, you can get really enthusiastic about something, but not get to the place you really want to get because you're not really clear. You get someplace. It may not be where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 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 Good. Good. Well, anything else? Can you think of any other ways you've seen people build their enthusiasm? Give people a couple of ideas.
Well, one of the exercises we do in the class is 20 reasons. 20 reasons to have your goal, 20 reasons to whatever it is, 20 reasons to increase my income. Any of those things, I find that that is now my trick to that is you don't do five and come back later. You sit for the entire time and you come up with 20 the whole time uninterrupted.
Why?
And
Why is that your
if
trick,
you
Jackie? Why do you find that works better than kind of drifting back and forth?
Well, because I find that the first 10 to 15 reasons can be kind of superficial, Oh yeah, it'd be really cool to have more money. But then you start getting into some really good whys by 15 to 20. And then sometimes it can push back, push beyond 21 and you're just like, wow, and it just gives me a little boost of, okay, there's a really deeper reason why I came up with this goal in the first place. It's not about the money. It's about seeing how far I can take this and delivering value to clients, whatever it is.
Yeah,
You can find a deeper reason there, and
I love
that
that.
to me is finding that driving element.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's true too. I think some of us who have gotten used to saying what we want and why we want it don't take ourselves seriously, really, until we do what
Mhm.
you're talking about. Really question ourselves, really get down there deep. Yeah, really get deep beyond the, like you said, the superficial. I think that years ago on the stairwell, that's what Daryl was trying to get across to me. I don't think he knew how to say that to me. He knew what it was. He just didn't know how to, he didn't know how to hand me what I needed to learn would be my own process in it. But that was what he was trying to convey to me. And I did find my why. I mean, my
Mhm.
why really had to do, and I knew what it was. I just didn't know that I knew what it was. And it made a real difference when I knew what it was because it started coloring the actions that I took first. It started coloring my priorities. But at that time, it was all about my kids, which was
Mhm.
no surprise. But again, I didn't know that I knew it. And I didn't really know what it was that I wanted, what I was aiming for. I knew I wanted certain things for my kids or for us as a family, but I didn't know what it was. So it was definitely a
Mhm.
life changing
Exactly. Yeah, and we
exercise
just
for
don't
me.
take time.
I lost you. Go ahead, Jackie.
Oh, yeah, it's just I think we don't always take the time to really connect with that deeper why, and it's just not really something because I think it really kind of it's something that probably the superficial ego wants you to hide because um, it's all about the ego is trying to keep the status quo and keep things where they are, and without with really examining that why, it's kind of like, whoa, I'm gonna have to change because I really want to do this.
Yeah, it really shook things up for me. I mean, I was already in a shakedown anyway. So, but it did. It really, you're absolutely right. I think you're spot on, Jackie, that we hang out in that superficial place because it feels the same or safe. But when I really, really dug down deep, it changed everything. Happily, I'm happy to say, all these years later, but at the time, boy, it felt a little crazy and chaos like. That's something we should talk about at
Mm-hmm.
some point, is what happens when things get messy before they get cleaned up. That's what we should talk about next. So I don't know. Are you willing to do that? Are
Sure.
you willing to talk about the mess? What do you think, Jackie?
Sure, why not?
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about that next time. Let's talk about the
Sure.
falling apart to fall back together and
Okay,
how some of the tools can help
that
us
sounds
with
good.
that.
It's a good
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. You and I have both lived through some personal messes ourselves to get to the other side. And we certainly know some people who have lived through some messes to get to the other side. So it is a really good topic. So thank you
Hmm.
for joining me this morning, Jackie, on this early Tuesday morning. Now, next Tuesday, we won't be meeting because I meet with my Manifesting Elite group. But in 2 Tuesdays, we'll meet and we'll talk about things unraveling so
We
that
won't
they
be
can come
meeting
back
next
together.
Tuesday.
No, not next Tuesday. We can meet another morning if you'd like, but not next Tuesday morning. I didn't catch that. What? I've lost your sound. Okay. So wave bye-bye, Jackie.
I've lost
Oh,
you.
there you are. There you
Can't hear
are.
you.
Okay. So we'll meet in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We've lost Jackie. Oh, there you are. Jackie, say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody. See you guys in 2 weeks. Bye now.
Bye.